From BBC Learning English, this is Learning English from the News, our podcast about the news headlines.
In this programme, Peter Magyar wins Hungarian election, ending Viktor Orbán's 16 years in power.
Hello, I'm Georgie.
And I'm Phil.
In this programme, we look at one big news story and the vocabulary in the headlines that will help you understand it.
You can find all the vocabulary and headlines from this episode, as well as a worksheet on our website, bbclearningenglish.com.
So let's hear more about this story.
Peter Magyar has won a historic victory in Hungary's elections, bringing to an end Viktor Orbán's 16 years in power.
Orbán had been a close partner of US President Donald Trump and Russia's Vladimir Putin, whereas Magyar wants a better relationship with the rest of the EU and Ukraine.
Almost 80% of people who could turned out to vote, which broke records.
Magyar's TISA party has won a huge majority, which will allow him to change both Orbán's increasingly unpopular domestic policies and Hungary's global relationships.
Let's have our first headline.
This one is from BBC News. Orbán era swept away by Peter Magyar's Hungary election landslide.
That headline again from BBC News. Orbán era swept away by Peter Magyar's Hungary election landslide.
Now, this headline is about Peter Magyar's election landslide in Hungary. A landslide in this context means a huge majority of votes in an election, but we are looking at the phrase sweep away. Swept is the past tense of the verb.
Think about when you use a broom to sweep your house. If you sweep away the dust or crumbs on the floor, you remove them. And that's a literal use of sweep away.
But in the context of this headline, swept away is more metaphorical. The Orbán era, or his time in power, has been swept away. It has ended. Swept away has this idea of being removed by a strong force, the strong force being Peter Magyar's campaign.
Another more everyday example could be, I lost my brother at the concert. He got swept away in the crowd and I didn't find him until the end.
And just a note about the use, this is the passive form of the verb. Orbán era swept away by Peter Magyar's landslide. The active form would be Peter Magyar's landslide swept away Orbán era.
We've had swept away, removed by a strong force.
For example, her powerful speech swept away all doubts about her leadership skills. This is Learning English from the News, our podcast about the news headlines. Today we're talking about Peter Magyar's landslide election victory in Hungary.
Viktor Orbán had been in power for 16 years until Peter Magyar beat him in the election. Orbán made big changes to election laws and the media, and expensive state projects were given to Orbán's friends and family. Orbán has always denied corruption allegations.
Hungary's next Prime Minister, Peter Magyar, used to be part of Orbán's Fidesz party and previously supported Orbán. But he left the party in 2024 and now promises to tackle corruption, improve the economy, weaken ties with Russia and rebuild relationships with Europe.
Magyar said that Hungarian voters had not just voted for a change of government, but for complete regime change.
And that is what our next headline is about.
This is from France 24. Peter Magyar, former Fidesz insider who vowed to dismantle Orbán's system brick by brick.
And that headline again, Peter Magyar, former Fidesz insider who vowed to dismantle Orbán's system brick by brick. And that's from France 24.
This headline is about the changes that Peter Magyar wants to make. He vows or promises to dismantle, and that means take apart, Orbán's system brick by brick. And we're learning brick by brick. What can you tell us?
Okay, well, a brick is a rectangular block we use to build things. So imagine building a house brick by brick. You're building it step by step, one brick at a time. Now you can build something or take it apart brick by brick.
Right, but in the headline, brick by brick is used more metaphorically. Magyar vows to dismantle the Orbán system brick by brick. He promises to take apart each part of Orbán's system step by step.
Yes, it has this sense that he doesn't plan on changing just a few things. He wants to take apart the whole system and then rebuild it, according to this headline.
Let's have another more everyday example. My sister built her business over many years by herself, brick by brick.
We've had brick by brick, step by step.
For example, after the big argument, she had to regain his trust brick by brick. This is Learning English from the News from BBC Learning English. We're talking about the election of Hungary's next Prime Minister, Péter Magyar.
Péter Magyar said he has already spoken to lots of European leaders since his election victory. He wishes to distance Hungary from Russia and strengthen its relationship with the rest of the EU and Ukraine.
Viktor Orbán had opposed further sanctions against Russia and further assistance for Ukraine relating to the war. He also opposed the idea of Ukraine becoming a member of the EU.
Hungary's election result could also change its relationship with the US. US President Donald Trump had wanted Viktor Orbán to win the election, and Vice President J.D. Vance had visited Hungary to campaign for Orbán.
And our next headline is about this.
This one is from the New York Times. MAGA absorbs the loss of Orbán, a kindred spirit to Trump's movement.
And that headline again from the New York Times. MAGA absorbs the loss of Orbán, a kindred spirit to Trump's movement.
So this headline is about the MAGA movement's reaction to Orbán's defeat. MAGA stands for Make America Great Again, and the MAGA movement refers to a group of Trump supporters.
This headline says that Orbán is a kindred spirit to the MAGA movement. Now, what is a kindred spirit?
Well, a kindred spirit is a word for a person who shares similar ideas or beliefs with another person or group. They're similar to each other.
Orbán is described as a kindred spirit to Trump's MAGA movement, meaning that they have similar political views and values. They're closely aligned, according to the headline.
Now, the phrase kindred spirit is mostly used in more everyday situations to talk about friendships or relationships. For example, my sister met her best friend at book club. They like a lot of the same books. They're kindred spirits.
In the headline, the use is a kindred spirit to something, but that's not the most common way of saying it. You'll most commonly hear two people described as kindred spirits, that's plural, or that a person is someone's kindred spirit. For example, my best friend is my kindred spirit. We're kindred spirits.
We've had kindred spirit, someone with similar ideas or beliefs.
For example, he struggled to make friends growing up, but he finally found a kindred spirit at university who shared his interests.
That's it for this episode of Learning English from the News. We'll be back next week with another news story.
If you've enjoyed this programme, why not check out Our World in English, the best documentaries from the BBC in language you can understand.
Find Our World in English at bbclearningenglish.com. Goodbye for now.
Bye.